So there's a couple of things that I think will help you out here as you start to work in assemblies. And the first is understanding how to ground something. If you notice, when I try to click and drag around on the components in this assembly, they won't move. And that's because I have one of them grounded. You can see this with the little orange push pin icon next to the grounded part. You can also see down here in the history browser where I initially grounded that part upon first bringing it in. You don't ever want to ground more than one part because they may seem like they're frozen and constrained, but actually they're just refusing to move because their one is grounded. I'll right click on this and unground it. And now, as you can see, it can just freely be dragged around, and anything else that's joined to this can also freely be dragged around, but the two things relative to each other, they're still constrained together. So I'm going to ground this component once more, right click, ground. It's going to ask you if you want to revert position or capture position. Don't capture position. It adds a lot of stuff to your timeline down here each time you do that, and it's not necessary. So revert position, we'll just put it back where it was. And now, as you can see, it can't move. So it's a good idea when you bring in your very first part or a good base part for an assembly, ground it, and then you sort of build everything else off of that using the joints and constraints. Another really helpful tool for working in assemblies is being able to analyze interference. In other words, tell whether two parts are occupying the same space. So we'll find that tool here underneath Inspect. And if I click here, I can find this little interference tool. And with that, I can select any of the components in the assembly and click Compute. And it'll tell me here, no interference is detected. So I just brought this extra part in to show what it looks like when we do have an interference. And if I select these two parts that happen to be in the same space and I click Compute, it will tell me where that interference is. It'll show it to me, and it'll tell me how much the volume that is and between which components. So it's a very useful tool. And I can go back and I can address that. Now, sometimes you think you have things fitted together properly, and then you run interference and you find that, in fact, there's things where they shouldn't be, and that helps you to diagnose and troubleshoot the issues with the assembly. And finally, as you work in an assembly, you may notice as you add joints that these little icons appear, these little joint icons all over the place. And sometimes those are a little bit helpful to help you understand how two parts are connected to each other. Other times they are a bit annoying and they can become clutter on the screen, and especially zoomed out like this, I can't tell what any of that goes to. So it may be nice while you are working to turn those off, which is as simple as coming down here to Display Settings and looking at Object Visibility, and here you can uncheck joints. You can uncheck lots of other stuff too, but in this case I just want to turn off the joints. And next time I want them back, if I want to be able to again look and see what's joined to what and with what sort of relationship, I can just go back down here, find it again, Object Visibility, turn joints back on.